Right. So part one, Pearson View hosted exam. 2 hours. You have 60 questions. You will have to score 65% plus. If you score less, you can reattempt that architecture exam after 3 weeks. For part two, design phase is the first step. So you will have to apply basically on the Pega website. You can also email to CLSA Pega, CLSA team@pega.com. They will also guide you. So you will have to basically apply that, okay, I want to give this design exam or a CLSA build exam. You will have to select the date, timing, and everything, and then you will have to pay $600 plus taxes. Once you have paid it, you will actually get the question on that date, which you have basically provided during your application process. So you will get the question, you will have to decide or provide the date and time, and you will get your question 2 hours before the time that you have mentioned. So for example, if I'm saying that, okay, I'm going to start my CLSA first page on May 15th, 10 a.m., right? So I will get the question at 8 a.m. itself. Earlier, Pega was sending more than one question, but from the last few months, or basically more than a year, they're sending one question only. Okay, so they will send you one question where you will have to design and build an application from scratch. Okay, that will be very extensive question. Of course, the scenario changes. So you will get one question. In the page one, you are expected to provide design only design. Okay, you do not have to provide anything else. You do not have to build it, and it is basically expected that you will not be doing any work on Pega Dev Studio or Pega tool. If you by any chance, if you actually embed any screenshot or anything from the Pega tool to in your design, it will be negatively affecting your score. So do not put any Pega screenshot in the design. So the design usually, if you are well experienced, it usually take 35 hours to 40 hours to complete. But you will have 7 days if you are a native English speaker. If you're not a native English speaker, you will get 14 days to submit your design. I believe everyone in this call is non-native speaker. Okay, so even if you are residing in US or UK or Canada or any part of the world, you are not a native speaker. So you will get 14 days. And when you apply, there will be a checkbox to declare that I'm not a native speaker. Okay. Anyone who selects their address as India by default are considered, but the people who are selecting their address as US and other countries which are English speaking countries, then you might have to basically declare that. The passing score for page one is 75%. If you score 75% plus, you are considered pass. However, if you score 75% less, I mean less than 75%, but 65% plus, then you will be given an opportunity to fix without any cost. Once your result is declared, you will have 30 days to schedule a fix, and you will get 4 additional days to fix your design. They will also give you feedback. But if you score less than that, you will be considered as failed, and you will have to wait for 3 months before you can again appear for the CLSA build. But if you, let's consider the best case scenario, if you have passed the design, once you get the result, within 30 days, you will have to start your application build. Okay, so if you got the result today, 30th of April, you will have to start the build process by 29th of May, because that's when the 30 days window ends. And Pega will need at least 2 days prior notice, 2 working days notice, basically before it can accept your a request for starting the build. Same situation here, you do not get additional days. Okay, so it's application thing, so you will have 7 days, native or non-native, doesn't really matter. Everyone will get 7 days to build the exam. build the scenario. So whatever you design you presented in page 1, the design, the same question you will have to build. It's not going to be any different, okay? You will also get certain feedback based on your design. Of course, you have passed it, so that means your application design was more or less good, right? But there might be some minor feedback that you should or you could accommodate during the build. That's all right. If you score more than 75%, you're passed. If you score between 65 to 75, you will have to basically appear for fix again. Within a month, you will have to give fix. You will get 4 days to fix your build. If you score less than 65, you will be considered fail and you will have to start over again. After 3 months, you will be eligible. And you will have to go through the design phase again because next time it will be a different question. So you will have to start from the beginning of the part 2. That is the design phase. Any question?
As part of this training, right? Like, so this design, how to give this design, like, is it in a pattern and all those things?
Yes,
Like what?
there is a
Everything will be covered.
pattern. Yes, yes. There is a pattern. There is a lot of things actually. How do we approach it? This is what we are going to learn. Okay. I'm going to start that shortly. Just after briefing you about the exam, everyone should know how the exam is architected so that they plan accordingly. So yes, there is a lot of process. There is a template available as well for the design. You will get that. Pega keeps on changing that as well. Okay. So this template, there is a way of approaching every design. You should not just blindly start with that. There is a strategy for that. I mean, we'll discuss all that, okay?
Yeah.
Any other question?
So, I just want one question.
Mm-hmm.
So as per your experience, so the questions are every time it's changing, or it's some kind of means we'll get some idea on this whichever we will implement in next 2 means in this training. So this is kind of the similar kind of questions will be there, or
See,
similar.
every question is different. Okay. So every version has up to 5 set. Okay. Pega build 5 sets over the period of time for every version. Okay. They usually have 2 set active at a time. All right. So they give 1 set to some people, other set. But the question changes, the text changes, situation changes, but the concept remains same.
Okay, means the step naming and all will change, but the way to implement will be this kind of similar kind of this.
They will just change the scenario. You will have to follow the same pattern for every scenario. This is what we are going to practice here. Okay. So question definitely changes. Okay. But pattern remains the same. However, I mean, this is the first day only, right? I'll discuss about how smartly you can plan it to make sure you all pass. Okay.
Yeah. So will you means you people will help us because it's a $600. Okay, so we will try to means if because it's a 7-day time or 14 day, so you will means our will try to help us also on this or recheck whichever we are going to
See,
submit it.
concept wise, you can connect with me through the channel. Okay. Concept wise, yes. If you are stuck with certain concept, technical concept, you do not know how to solve it. More than happy to have a discussion. But if you are expecting an active help in the exam, so no, there will be no active help or basically something like, okay, this is how you should design the entire doc. I mean, how do you design the document? That is part of the training. But this question, I mean, basically, I will not be providing any design solution for your question. No.
Because we before submitting to Pega system, we can just cross verify with you because you are already LSA and you are already in this training part. So before that you can check and give. Yeah.
All right. Any other question from anyone? Any other question, guys? Are we all clear about the structure?
So Mahesh, one question. So in my last organization, right? So some students were writing. So in the app build, they got some feedback and then they fixed it and resubmitted. So can you explain that process as well?
Yes. So what happens if you do not score the required mark, but you score plus 65%, okay? So you will be given an opportunity to fix your design, or even that is applicable for build as well, okay? So once you receive the result, you will not get the feedback straight away, okay? They will tell you that, okay, this is your score, you could not qualify, but you are also not fail. Within next 30 days, we are giving you an opportunity to fix your solution. So you will have to schedule basically when you want to start your fix, and you will get 4 days. So in 4 days, on the day, you will have to again specify which day you want to start and what time. 2 hours before the time you have mentioned, you will get a feedback, okay? You will have to read that feedback, analyze that, and fix your design or build accordingly and submit it within 4 days. That's the process. And you will not be charged for that, okay?
Okay. So you for both application design and build, there will be a feedback process as well if you score
Yes,
65 plus.
correct. But less than 75.
Yes.
See, let me tell you how those people think. If you score somewhere close to 70, they will pass you. Okay, they do not want application build. Pega does not want application fix, build fix or design fix. So if you just follow, see, this is the journey we are starting from today. There's going to be a lot of interesting thing coming up next week onward. Okay, how to approach the design and build. There are 5 and 6 point that you need to stick with. If you do those 5-6 points correctly, you will never fail. Okay, you will never fail. It's not always the technical knowledge. Sometimes it's the presentation knowledge, as well as some understanding of the process. So since I have been basically on that seat, I know what to look and how we look at the build that you are submitting, build or design that you are submitting. Your goal is to not fail, and that is very simple. Very simple. A few things, 5-6 things that you need to basically consider, and you will pass. That's why my basically LSA batch session have been very successful. So we will discuss about them going forward. Okay. If you score 70, close to 70, your actual score, they will make it 75% plus and pass you. They will give you some feedback, of course. If you score close to 60 or so, they will fail you, and they will actually bring down your score. They do not want anyone to have a score like 60, 61, because then candidate make noise. Okay, so they will reduce your, they will just do a little bit hard evaluation. Okay, they very rarely give app fix. Okay, when you are very good, okay, in almost all the aspect, but there are a few serious problem as well, just 1 or 2, then they obviously do not want to fail them, and it is too risky to pass you as well, because your score is somewhere close to 67, 68, right? They will not give 8% extra. They can give 3-4% extra. That's fine, but that not, then only they decide to actually give you fix. Very rarely. Not really, but this is the criteria. This is how they think. So this 60 to 70 window is very sensitive, and that's where we need to work on. Anyone going through this program will actually not score less than 50 for sure. If you just practice and follow what I'm teaching. And if you just do a little bit additional practice, your score from 70 plus is for sure. Even if you do not know the concept, and if you are a little good, basically on your concepts design, and you are grasping this knowledge, you are putting an additional effort as well, designing everything that I'm asking, you will definitely score 75% plus. All right. So this is the pattern I've noticed from my previous batches, and I have rich experience in that domain, right? 50 plus batches means something for LSA, you know. So anyone who has been participating in the training, basically discussion, and they have experience 2 years, 3 years plus experience. They have actually worked very well on the project for at least a year. 1 year active good development experience, and they have given they have dedicatedly attended the session. They all have passed. Nobody has even got app fix. But every batch has mixed group of people as well. Sometimes a few people just want to explore how the CLSA looks like, right? So obviously they will take their a little time to grasp it even after the training and then appear for it. Okay. Any question? All right. All right. So now, since we are clear about what we are going to do here, I am going to start our basically content delivery. The content is organized exactly as the CLSA part 1 is, but we are going to approach it in a different way. Okay. So if you look at CLSA 8.8, I'm preparing the content. I have enough now. So this is how the content was divided in 8.8, okay? 8.6. So platform, this is exactly how it is divided in 8.8 as well, which I am continuing to prepare. I have prepared the first two, basically. So because we have time limitation, right? We have 60 hours, 3 hours basically session every day, total 20. So we need to make sure that we are doing it more efficiently. Platform design is theory only. Application design is where actual things start. Okay, case design, structure, specialization, and reuse. These 3 things are very critical before you can start your build. So now I'm going to cover the entire theory. I'm going to do it in a most efficient way. I'm going to start from the application design, discuss the core concepts, these 2, so that we understand how do we approach a scenario for the case design. Then I'm going to move to the data model, try to understand how the data modeling is done. This will take 3 sessions, okay? Within the 3 sessions, we'll have everything to complete our build, right? And then we will start designing. The design will take around 1 session to complete one design, 1 or 2 design concept wise. I'm going to show you a template. That's where you will have to write. And of course, we will have design basically listed something like this. We will talk about different design pattern, the macro journey. I mean, exactly how this is from my other batch that's currently running, right? So this is how we are going to approach the design. Okay, so the basic for every CLSA situation is that you should be able to understand the application structure. You should be able to understand the case design. You should be able to understand so app structure. Case design. You need to understand the data model. This constitute to 50% of your mark scoring. Okay, you get these much down, these correctly, you get 50-60%. Then you need to be very careful about the security and representation of security, mostly security reporting, security reporting, and there's one more thing, portals. Portals also have some time, we call it basically persona mapping. If you get these many things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these things right, you pass. Okay, no worries about that. And there are basically tips and guidelines and process for every all of these. Anyway, we need minimum this to start our build. We want to be building from the fourth session. From the fourth session, I want everyone to work on Dev Studio. Okay, on not necessarily the Dev Studio, but Pega platform. Everyone should be working on Pega platform. So that's why we are going to start with a little theory to set the base, how to identify case and all that. So application design is where we are going to start. We'll not complete the entire application design. Not everything is needed right now. These two are needed. So we will complete these two, and then we'll complete the data model. And then once we are basically in continuous build phase, I will come back to cover the remaining theory. Okay, sounds good. Any question? No? Okay. All right. So the very first thing is case structure design. And if you want to understand the case structure design, there is something called micro journey that we need to understand the micro journey, what exactly a micro journey is. So I'm going to ask questions to you guys, and I request everyone to participate in the discussion. This is an advanced level training, guys. Okay, this is the highest level training available in Pega. And this is not the place where we should shy away from speaking. No, you need to communicate, you need to discuss, even if it is wrong, that's fine. If it is wrong, you will get clarification about that. There is no, there is no judgment going to be passed in this session, not at all. Everyone gets a few things right and a few things wrong. I also do not know everything. I have been training LSAs for almost 5.5, 6 years, right? Working as an LSA for 6+ years. And before that as well, right? So also, nobody knows everything. Just remember that nobody knows everything. It's just that CLSA, attitude of a CLSA or a real CLSA just knows the way out. Okay, the CLSA should know how to get answers to the questions that we are not having answers right now. And that's what you are going to basically learn throughout the training. So there's two aspects of it, right? One, of course, the certification aspect. That's very important because that's what gives us that tick mark that, okay, we are now certified LSA. That's how our brand value is increased. Basically, we are considered mature Pega developers. Our architect will help your paycheck as well. But I mean, that's a different direction. The other direction, which is very critical, way more critical than the first direction, is becoming an LSA. Becoming an LSA is entirely different process, right? That's about your approach. That's about your way of handling work, handling team, handling situation. That's also something you are going to learn in this training. All right. Okay, so please do participate. And the first question, first topic that I want to discuss with you all is, do you guys know that in Pega we have been promoting something called journey and micro journey? Is there anyone who knows what the journey and micro journey is? Because that's where your design is start. Don't take it as a theory. It's not a theory. It's a prep for your design. What is a journey and micro journey in Pega application design process?
Okay, so I don't know, but I want to make a guess. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So here, maybe we are talking about the journey of the data, where it starts and how it's supposed to end.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good guess, but a little bit deviation. Anyone else? All right. So in Pega, we try to model customer business with the process, correct? You all must have seen that. You all must have felt it in your applications, how closely basically we try to associate or affiliate our application with the client's business problem. That's the overall purpose, isn't it? That's what we try to achieve. So Pega has defined, or basically now it's industry norm, something called journey, and then something called micro journey. Journey is overall overall association of the customer with the organization. So the journey starts the day customer becomes the customer of your organization. Okay, that's where this journey starts, and it continues to be basically running until the customer decides to have no relation with your organization. That's where the journey ends. It's overall association now. You might be working for a bank or any organization. There are different services that the organizations offer to the customer. Not every service is going to be implemented on Pega, isn't it? That right, correct? Not everything from that organization, not every single thing is developed on Pega, isn't it? So the journey is way wider, and it's not necessarily basically everything is implemented in Pega. There could be instances, but in 99.99% no. All right. Macro journey is, this is basically a business process in the journey of customer. Okay. In the journey of the customer or association of the customer with your organization, in the journey of the customer that has a life cycle. Often involves multiple stakeholders. Okay, and most important, produces an end result. That's the macro journey. In the overall process, all those small business processes, not that small, but they are modular. The business processes which are triggered in the organization to get one particular thing done, to produce an outcome, and that has a life cycle. What do you understand by life cycle, by the way? These terminologies are very important. Anyone?
Start and end to a particular, let's say for an example, if I'm, as you said, right, a journey, I'm a customer of a bank, and let's say I wanted to open a new account. So that the start of that account opening to successfully running that account can be a micro journey. That's a life cycle where it can involve multiple things, right? Where approvals and all those things.
You are on the right page, but you just made one simple mistake there, okay? It's not that overall running of the account, getting the account open, that's where journey ends. Macro journey, okay? Maintenance is a different thing. It produces and otherwise it will never produce. That will continue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So business, anyone else would like to provide a different
Yeah, it is a business processes that we design to achieve a certain objective. Second result, you can say it's life cycle.
Yes. Life cycle is very practical. You can just look at the life of a human being, right? We are born, we are in our childhood, we then go into adulthood, then we basically are kind of getting old, and then we die. And in this entire process, we get married, we get a lot of other things happen, right? So, and in that process, we are actually interacting with multiple people, multiple important people. It's not like that we are basically it's not necessarily just it's not necessarily just basically everyone that you are interacting with. Some important people in your life, your mother, your wife, or your husband, your children, they are very important, right? So these basically, these people are important stakeholder in your life. Similarly, any business process which is actually having multiple over the period of time, its status changes, its state changes, and a lot of people basically work on that business process to get the case moving from one stage or one state to another stage or state. Those processes are called, and I'm talking about business process, I'm not talking about the Pega process, okay? So these processes are called, this situation is called basically having a life cycle. So any business process which has a life cycle and produces an end result, right? It is a micro journey. It has to be a micro journey, okay? A micro journey can be basically fulfilled by a single case, and sometimes we will have to divide it into multiple cases as well. We'll talk about that later once we talk about the case design. But now, do you have the clear understanding what the journey and micro journey is? Can anyone summarize that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand with an example here. So now let's say the same part. Now let's say my journey is on the same example which I've taken earlier. I'm a customer of a bank. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm customer of a particular XYZ bank. Now let's say I had a fraudulent transaction with my particular account. So I raised a complaint to that basically. Okay, so that goes as that involves a multiple stakeholders, and which involves like status change and all those things, whatever you just said, right? And finally it ends somewhere basically. So whether my transaction, I'll get back my amount, or whether it's valid or not valid, it will have some end to it. So can we say that as a micro journey?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. That's a micro journey for complaint, right? There is other example as well. No, that's absolutely right. Okay, that's a micro journey. Similarly, when you apply for a new credit card, when you apply for a new bank account, right? Those are micro journey. When you if you have an insurance policy and you're claiming for you're submitting a claim, that has a micro journey, because everything that claim process, for example, you are submitting it, right? You are giving the details, you're submitting some document and all that, then it goes to some sort of underwriter who actually kind of, or reviewer who actually kind of verifies everything. Then they approve, they might visit the site to assess the damage or things like that. Then it will go to, if they approved, it will go to the finance team or accounting department. They will process the payment and then it will close. So ultimate result of this process is that our loan, our claim is settled. We got the money. And of course, if you look at this has multiple state, right? The first state was that the claim was being submitted, very brand new. Then it was pending for basically verification and approval. It was pending for the disbursement, and then finally it's settled. That's the perfect example of a micro journey. And that's very similar to the case design as well. All right. So micro journey, because we are now basically, I mean, earlier in 8.6, this was not there. This particular topic was not there. It was mentioned very briefly, but now we are emphasizing on that. Okay. So we need to understand what the customer journey is, and because every project is there to fulfill one of those micro journeys only. There might be more than one micro journey being fulfilled in one particular application, but they all are basically targeting completion of micro journey only. That they are trying to build micro journey. So
I have one quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so how different it is from, like, we always talk about the case management life cycle, right? So is
Correct.
it alternate name, or like, because we are using 8.7, like it's still saying like case management life cycle. So
Correct. It's 99% same. Okay.
Okay.
Almost every micro journey is basically modeled technically using case. Okay. But in certain cases, one micro journey might have more than one case where you have divide and conquer approach. Okay. So
Okay.
yeah, it's same thing because micro journey is what you translate into the case type. Got it?
Okay. They're terming it as like micro journey, like instead of like case life cycle, right?
Correct. Sometimes there are advanced instances of the micro journey as well. Sometimes a micro journey might just involve multiple other type of action, not just the case type, but we will talk about those scenario when we work on situations, okay? When we work on the
Sure.
actual questions.
Sure.
All right. So understanding that was very important. Now, the second set of topic, and this is going to be taking some time, and that's okay. I'm always going to run a little slow on the concept which are base for the design. And of course, if it is base for a design, it is base for the build as well. You as an LSA is going to play a very critical role in every organization and in that project. Okay, you are the tech lead. You are the architect of that particular Pega solution. Now, if you are architect and you are going to design that solution, and basically technically that's how it is going to be implemented, you need to know the various options available to you to solve a particular problem. Correct? There are different, there are total 5 design pattern, case design pattern, which if you haven't gone through this, basically these topics and haven't basically thought about them deeply, no LSA knows. Okay, unless they have gone through all those, even in fact, old LSAs sometimes get stuck in this process. So in this topic, we are going to talk about the different options that you can leverage to design a case or to solve a business problem. Very critical to basically your role as an LSA. So we are going to learn about 5 design patterns here. 5 way of solving problem related to case design. Okay. So the first thing is going to be the divide and conquer. Very common. Almost all of you must have worked on that concept or have seen that in your application. This data instance first as well. This is also nowadays kind of in use, but not that very commonly. Data instance after is very rare. Limited availability and concurrency. This actually depends on the maturity of the LSA, how well they understand this. They do implement it, and the parallel case processing. So these are the 5 basically ways of implementing a solution to a case design. Okay, let's talk about them. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer is not just related to Pega, okay? It's a very wider concept. And this has been, this is something that is applicable to our real life. This is something that is applicable to almost all the areas where we try to solve a problem, okay? And it's very commonly used problem solving technique in the software industry or software industry as well, where we try to understand the entire problem and then we try to break it down into multiple small and modular independent problems. Then we try to solve them one after another or maybe parallelly. And once all those sub problems are solved, of course, the main problem is solved as well. That's the divide and conquer. So this is an example, okay? So eventually I'll ask you all to go through the basically academy course as well, because this is an application being built there in the academy. If you do this, you will have an additional exposure of an additional application as well. That's very good. So there we are trying to build a solution for an enterprise which actually facilitates event hosting. Mostly for the corporate, okay? So you must have seen in your organization that your company must be basically, if it is a big and mature organization, they actually organize some sort of corporate gathering, some sort of outing and all those things, events basically corporate event or whatever it is. They do not do everything themselves. They have a vendor. They call a vendor, some event hosting company, and they tell them their requirement to those vendors, and the vendor arranges everything. This application is being built for that vendor. So the vendor for the event booking, actually, the vendor says, okay, I can book the event for you. What kind of venue do you want? Do you need hotel? If it is more than 1 day or even for 1 day, do you need hotel for the guys who are going to attend that? Do you need some people are going to travel by car? If they are going to travel by car, do you need parking for them? If not, they are staying in the hotel. Do you need shuttle services from hotel to venue? Okay. All right. So maybe it's outdoor event sometime, right? 1 second. All right. So if it is an outdoor event, the vendor has to focus on the weather as well on that day. Probably they can check the forecast 1 day, 2 days before the event and accordingly do the arrangement for that. So if you look at that, this can be managed in one case. There's no problem. But the problem is with that, you will have to do one by one. In one case, you do not have parallel processing, right? So you will do hotel booking, and you will assign things. There are parallel processing option in one case as well, but that has its own challenges. We'll talk about them. So there is an opportunity to divide this entire set of tasks into multiple subtasks. So we are dividing them, one process as a hotel booking, one as a weather check and related arrangement, one as a parking related arrangement, one for the shuttle service. So we divided the entire problem into multiple subset of problems, and then we are resolving them basically each of them, those one by one, and then finally we have our event booking completed, event booking process 100% done. So this part was divide and this part is conquer. The benefit here you get that you can do the things in parallel, absolute parallel, okay? Multiple people can work on the cases without having to impact each other. So this is the divide and conquer methodology. Or in Pega, basically you create multiple cases or sub-child cases, sub-case basically. This is the case and sub-case processing. Question? Any question from anyone?
So this is like you're saying that having the parallel processing for all the set of events on the downwards, right? The divide one, right?
Yes, we are dividing one problem into multiple sub problems. That has an additional added benefit of completing them in parallel as well. Yeah.
Okay, so here you mean, I mean, I'm just maybe talking too early on that. So whether you mean to say a particular case type you wanted to define for this, for all of them?
So this is basically case and these are sub cases. Yes, these are different case types.
Okay, so now just to understand, right, why can't I just create a case and have a parallel processing assignments to this?
So this hotel booking is not a single step process. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
This it's in itself, it has a life cycle. You will not break down something modular that unless that has a life cycle. So in the hotel booking, there are set of stages. Okay. In the weather, there is set of stages. In the parking, so these all are not sub processes. These all are basically processes having life cycle. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, so you should not divide anything a modular something. There is no advantage of creating sub cases if those are having dependency on each other. If they have dependency on each other, that means you will create them, or you will complete them in sequence, correct? Yes or no?
Yes, right.
So there's no benefit of dividing them into multiple cases unless, of course, the main case was too huge. Okay.
Yeah, I have one question here.
Mhm.
So, yeah, in this exact scenario, so let's say there is a change in weather.
Mhm.
So the event will be eventually cancelled. So in that case,
Not
parking and
necessarily
shuttle service.
cancel. Not necessarily cancel. There might be some weather-related arrangement, maybe tent, some other things. Okay. Not necessarily cancel the event, booking event. You will have to make the arrangement. The event does not get cancelled for weather conditions. Okay.
No,
There are
Let's say, okay,
Mhm.
let's say on a specific date. So they are rescheduling. So they will not they will not going through the parking process for that day, right? So
No, of course
in
not.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes, like there are like cricket matches, right, or football matches, they can postpone to some other day, right, due to bad weather.
So that is a different process. Okay, you will have to basically define that how to handle things like that. Okay. So there is not just one setup. Here we are trying to explain the process, but yes, eventuality of not getting any hotel done at all. So how do you handle it? Not getting the weather sorted, right? Not getting any parking. How to handle that? That's a different process. Okay. You will have some sort of business process or some sort of way to handle them. Maybe we need to reschedule at any certain point. A hotel booking is done. So there has to be some sort of mechanism to inform or basically accordingly update the other case types as well, right?
Yeah, yes.
But that's ad hoc process. I'm not ad hoc processing. That might be just a business process, but this is not something that we are trying to solve here. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question? Okay. So this is very common one. Almost everyone has worked on these. Let's talk about the next one. This is data instance first. Now this is interesting. And I'm going to ask or give a scenario to all of you. You all know these sites, right? Bank Bazaar, Paisa Bazaar, and similar site probably in every country. What they do?
They work on based on the data basically. So based on your data, they will be offering you the different kinds of products they have.
Mhm.
They'll take the user information first.
Okay. What kind of services do they offer? These companies are offering you maybe credit card, right? They are offering you some loan, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
But they are not offering that from their own. I mean, they do not provide loan. They do not provide credit card. It's the banks who do, correct?
Yeah.
But they do accept applications, and they do that, right? I mean, you can just apply it on Paisa Bazaar or Bank Bazaar or any other site. So what they do, they take your application and they route that application to the respective bank, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
There could be 2-3 situations. Okay. One situation is that they have real-time integration with the bank where every application that they receive are immediately sent to the bank with the API. There could be other scenario as well where they might be collecting all the application writing it into a file, and then every hour, every 3 hour, every 5 hour, or every day, they're sending that file to the bank, and bank has some sort of listener to read that file and load it and basically read the data from the file and create application, correct? Could be, right? There could be anything. Now tell me guys, the bank has certain validation to be performed on the data, right? the bank has certain validation to be run on every application that they receive, and if those validation fail, the application will be cancelled. Correct?
Yeah.
So once, be it real time, the API based, should the bank directly be creating the case from the API? If it is file based, should the, let's say that bank solution is implemented in Pega, be a file listener. Should the file listener be directly creating the case and then run the validation and everything in the case?
No.
That's the data instance first. No, we store the data into some staging table. Then we have some sort of job scheduler or something that actually reads out the data, does the validation and all that. Okay. If every automated validation runs and it actually processes, then we finally create the case. Why unnecessary create for a case for every record? Correct? That's the data instance first. You can get that data from multiple sources, not necessarily just the file listener or API. It can be some sort of mashup, some sort of UI page. So data is persisted. If required, it can be updated as well. If you run your logic and this all basically passes, then you can create a case for that.
Mahesh, so why not data instance also? You know, the API itself can validate the data and, you know, send some error back to.
For the one-to-one process, it's okay. Sometimes volume is a concern. Okay. Sometimes volume is a concern, so we will have to serialize that. We just if we are getting too many API calls, because we will have multiple vendors, right? Not just one. In that case, we just want to keep all the data into a table and run the background process once we have less load. There could be, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So Mahesh, I
Yeah.
have one question here. So we
Yes.
have this design pattern actually. So what happens is on a monthly basis, there are some million records that come. And out of
Okay.
those million records, actually only say 15 to 12,000 records are required for the processing, which we put those, we create those cases in Pega and we process them. Now, my
Correct.
question is, while I totally understand this design, but what this validation and this API and then go back and check and get the complete data and come back, that's all not part of Pega.
Not
It's
always, not always. Yeah. See, you might not have this link. Okay. Go back and get again data. This is not necessary. I mean, this is a general concept where we are trying to depict that it can be a possibility in this scenario as well. Okay. Maybe you will never get a chance to update the data was received. Maybe you will have a chance to update the data that you received. Okay. May or may not be. That's okay.
So my question is, this is more of a system design. From the Pega case creation and Pega application architecture, how does this, I mean, I don't see that these are two different things is what I see. What we are talking about
Sikha,
here is,
see what happens. I've seen actually practically in my career that whenever you get we get across situations. So I was part of the review team at Pega System. Okay, I've seen people who actually create cases for everything. I mean, their first step is to create cases, and then they do the validation. They run some automated validation, and they resolve the case by rejecting it. Okay, because that validation failed. This is very common. This is very common. But if those guys understand that there is a different way, before doing the case creation, you can run some other process, validate it, and reject the data itself. Right? Is way better than. So this is one of those options that we should be aware of. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
So Mas, this is a case of like it's a temporary case.
Not temporary case. You do
Okay.
not necessarily need temporary case there. Temporary case is one session thing anyway, right? Everything stays in the clipboard. One session is gone unless you persist it, it's gone. It's not temporary case. It's just that operating on the data, running some business logic. If the data qualifies that business logic, then you initiate the case. And if you're doing something in the background, you cannot work on the temporary case. This has to be a persisted case. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Got it.
So this is like when this scenario comes when we receive the data from the other system. Let's say my case initiation process itself is from my Pega. Okay, my case starts at the Pega, where I just click on some particular icon. I just click on incident, for an example. I click on incident and try to fill the details. At that point of time, we can go with the persist case, right? In that scenario.
Yes, of course. There's that option. Even on the Pega as well, you can ask the user to enter all the detail using a harness UI page, right? Then persist the data into a table, and then behind the scene run a background process to validate that, and then create a case. If it is if the case ID and everything is not needed to be provided to the end user immediately, you can do that as well. So it's not like just for receiving the data from external sources, it can be from the internal sources as well. You just have to adjust your design accordingly.
Yeah.
So Mahesh, question here. So like first we will gather the data, and then after validation, we are going to create the cases, right? So what happens to the data which is getting rejected?
Business use case, business will tell us, do we need to report on that? Do we need to wipe that out? Do we need to put somewhere else? That business will tell.
Okay, so that is a data retention mechanism, right? Like
exactly. What business want?
So that means Pega may be the downstream system in the whole business, right? Receiving data from others.
Come again, Prabhakar. I missed the first part of the question.
I mean, the Pega may be the downstream system, maybe receiving data from others and validating it if required, create a case, otherwise
Correct, but don't say downstream. That could be Pega might play downstream or upstream both. Pega is your brain here, business processing tool. Okay, that's where the business process is running.
Okay.
All right, so this is the second pattern, and then there comes the third pattern: data instance after. Now, data instance after was earlier basically called something that we say to do enroll list. Okay, there was this pattern was in 8.8, 8.6 called to do enrollment pattern. Okay, now we are calling it data instance after. I'm going to ask you a scenario again. Okay, and let's see, and everyone please focus on that. So almost all of you should be familiar with the cricket, right? Cricket?
Yes.
Take any sport. Let's say that your district authority or sport office at your district level is going to organize a district level cricket competition, volleyball competition, whatever sport you love. Okay. And for that, they created a tournament. The tournament, they will provide the detail that will go for approval of district magistrate. Then the funding will be secured. Once everything is approved, they will advertise and ask the teams to enroll. The teams will register as a team, of course, for the cricket. A lot of villages, tehsils, or whatever subdivision we have in the district, they will register as a team. There is no limitation how many teams. Okay. Of course, there is a deadline that, okay, in the next 30 days, we will keep accepting new teams. There's no deadline. And then matches and everything are going to be conducted after that. If you need to build an automated solution in Pega for that, how will you build it? What cases will you create? Any relation among them? Anyone? If everyone goes silent, sometime I doubt that is my internet connectivity working or not. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
So you mean to say this starting from this enrollment process to scheduling the matches, you wanted to
leave the matches. I just need to worry about basically supporting the team registrations for the tournament. And from the tournament, I mentioned, right? Tournament is created. It goes through a few validation, approval, and then funding approval. Once funding is secured, then only that tournament is advertised and teams can register in them.
So in this case,
So think about it.
So Mahesh, I'll give it a try.
Welcome. Come on, go ahead.
Tournament will be a parent case, and once it reaches an approval stages, then it allows the teams to register. So the team registration will be taken in as a data instances, may be stored in a table. And then once the timeline is over for registration, then
So how will you facilitate the team registration related to that tournament? Because we need to mark that, okay, this team is registered for this tournament. So there has to be a context about the tournament.
Okay. Okay. So the
teams might or might not have a life cycle as well. Team registration, someone will start a new team, they will provide the detail of 15 people or players that will be verified by the sport officer at the district level. If approved, then only they will be accepted as a team, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So the team registration process will be taken as data instance first in that case. So once that is decided and according to the standards, tournament standards, then
but it has to be related. So Ajay, it has to be related with the tournament. So you need to start from the tournament. How are you going to implement the tournament, and then how you're going to facilitate the team registration, and how you are keeping the relation between these two. No problem. Take a few minutes. That's okay. This is very important to understand, and everyone needs to give their best. Okay, just think about it. That's okay. Take a couple of minutes to think about that. And there's one more thing, guys. So what we do in this 3-hour session, we usually take a 15-minute break in between, 5 minutes per hour. That's my standard way of working. Today, of course, this was the first session. We started a bit late. So we will take a 10-minute break. Okay. Just to get ourselves some tea, coffee, to make sure that we are 100% attentive. 3 hours CLSA session without a break is going to be quite a challenge. Okay, so I'll leave this question with you guys. Go ahead, take a sip of coffee, tea, whatever you would like to have right now. Keep thinking about this, and let's resume after 10 minutes. Okay, and then you answer this. Think about the various permutation combination. Think about how you have seen things in your current project, in your previous project. Just think about all of those. Okay. And then come back. Obviously, 10 minutes is more than enough to think about this simple solution. I mean, this might or might not be a simple solution. I just want to hear out the options. Okay, so options from everyone. So let's do that. We'll resume exactly after 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, Mahesh, just before this, right? I just wanted to understand this question once. Like, so first the tournament, we need to think about the tournament, and the tournament can have different type of competitions, right?
There's just one. There's just one competition. Forget about this. Don't read this document. Okay. There's just one competition, cricket.
Okay.
There's just one sport, cricket. They just need to teams will enroll, but they will enroll into a particular tournament, because there might be tournament for starting at different date for other sports. That's fine. Our scope is one tournament and registration in that, team registration with that tournament. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So let's take that break, guys. Okay. We'll resume in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So anyone else? Anyone will try to attempt that?
Mahesh, like it's like it's like
Mhm.
as soon as somebody is interacting with that channel, so like should be something a link and behind mashup should be run. So as soon as hit that link, so it should redirected to apply for cricket tournament or something. We can make a different links, one for cricket or one for other tournaments and all.
Right.
Yeah, we can do that.
So how the tournament? See, actually, if you look at the requirement, and before I tell, anyone else would like to attempt that?
Yeah. Actually, so what I missed that, maybe I just joined now. So what others have told, I'm not sure. So
That's okay.
what I'm thinking is like, first we'll have a master table for this tournament where you will have the tournament details. Then you can just have some kind of web page where you can just let's say participant enrolling. Now, as soon as you click on that participant enrolling, you have a drop down or an autocomplete which shows you the list of tournaments. And by selecting it, and you can add your participants to that. Basically, you can add the.
Will you have a case? This is okay. This is correct actually with the relation wise. Okay, but will you have a case for tournament or for team registration or not?
Can you repeat that?
Do we need a case for tournament and team registration?
So what I'm thinking is like, well, let's say you click when you click on this enrollment page, right? If I under the icon, so you select this tournament name, let's say cricket, and you add participants. Like team A has participant 1, participant 2, participant 3. So this I can store in a table separately.
But there is a process. I said that they will go for approval.
Okay, they will go for approval.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tournament has also basically application submission. The initiation, right? And then some sort of approval, then some sort of funding, right? And then only it is available for enrollment, okay, for registration. And there is a registration requirement. I'm not saying it is a case of what. Registration, if it is a case, for example, then it will be someone will apply, right? Then it will be approved. Someone will review and approve it, right? So there is a clear relation between these two. The question here is, if you are going with the case type, let's say this is and this is both are case type, okay? So if both are case type, so is there any relation between registration and tournament, parent-child or something like that?
You can have the team registration as a child of tournament, right? So tournament is the parent case, team registration could be a child case.
Yes, one of the implementation is this. Okay, I'm not saying this is the only implementation option and this is the best option, but let's say this is an option. Okay, that's what we're going ahead with. How many child cases will you create? Child case are triggered, right? Triggered through create child case, shape and everything. How will you manage this relation, registration and tournament? How many? When will you create the child case?
When tournament is approved, means for which team, if all the cases are successfully verified, then only we will create.
Yes, open for registration. This is where it is, right? After the funding is secured. Now, if I'm creating the child cases, I need to know how many child cases, right? And every team can enroll in one of those child cases. Correct? But you do not have the visibility of how many child cases are going to be there. You don't know how many people will enroll as a team. Do you know that?
No, until we get all the registrations.
So I cannot create it basically from a shape, create a case, right? I cannot use create case shape here, right?
Yeah, you mean like registration case?
Yes, registration case.
We can create the for tournament.
But how?
Child we will create only when it will be team is registered successfully.
Yes. Yeah, so you cannot initiate it at the beginning, but you can give a button or some action that when you can create child cases on fly as well. Do you know that? That's the option I was talking about.
Child case when we will create?
You can create the child cases on fly as well. On a user action, you can add a new child case in that.
Okay.
So
this will be a manual intervention
process, yeah. So you might give a different representation for the tournament selection. Maybe you will let them open the tournament case in the read-only view, and there will be a button to enroll, and that's where you will create a new child case. Or maybe there might be UI action, UI page where they can select in the drop-down the tournament and click enroll, and then you create a child case for that tournament case, okay? There is different implementation, but ultimately you are creating a child case for the tournament, isn't it?
Yes.
And you are not creating it at the very in advance. You're creating it when the requirement comes, when someone is actually needing that, right? That's also an implementation option that you should know. And it might not be a child case always. Maybe we do not have the approval process. It's just the data instance. Then too, your data should be related to the tournament. So you are generating the data, you're saving it maybe into a separate table, or maybe in the same case in the page list, you are adding it. But you are again adding it on demand, right?
Right, yeah.
This is called data instance after. You have a case and you are creating data and cases for that case as and when required. This is the design pattern we call data instance after.
So the same thing, right? Like, I mean to say now, let's say if there is no approval, so I don't even require a child case for the parent, right?
Correct. But you need to store the data.
Yes, the data. Just schedule the matches. We need to get the data. Yeah.
Correct. So both options. I mean, create child case or do not create child case. But this particular design pattern is called because you are creating it for an existing case. It might be you might be creating just a data instance, or you might be creating a case instance, whatever it is, right? But you are creating it in the context of an existing case. All right. Tournament is for sure a case.
Yeah.
And it can be generalized even maybe when you are creating data for a data instance, then too, it is the same pattern. But since we are talking about the case design, it is for the case. Any question?
Then maybe we may have to have some kind of report also, right? To see what is attached to which just to say
some sort of reporting processing that will be needed later on. Of course, it has to be handled accordingly. But this is an option. This is also a design option. Of course, you will have to analyze your security and reporting requirement, and accordingly you will choose it. But you should be aware of that. This is also a design pattern. This is an option that you can utilize during your case design.
So Mahesh, in this example, right? So let's say in this tournament, 10 teams register and only 8 teams qualifies after the validation, right? So, but all 10 child cases will be there with the parent, so that we can see the overall how many teams registered and which teams qualified for playing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
The only approved teams will be basically considered for cricket hosting, right? Cricket scheduling and all those match scheduling.
So in this case, parents, for example, team registered, okay, for tournament. So for 10 parent case will create, but child case will create only which will be qualified.
Only one parent case is there. We are creating child cases for every request here, okay? And further processing, I mean, hosting the matches, scheduling the matches, that will be dependent on the teams which are approved, qualified.
So here, how many cases you will be required to create initially? For example, 10 teams are registered, okay, for tournament. 10, so only one case will be created, or 10 case will be created?
10 registration case will be created, but that will end. So we will, I mean, this design will have to be like registration, open for registration, and then scheduling will begin once the registration closes. Okay. So they will create a schedule considering the number of teams, and then matches will be organized based on the approved team. Registration ended here. Okay.
Okay. So case one case only will create, you telling. So how
for tournament? Yes.
One case. So for example, 10 teams are registered. Their data should be stored somewhere. So where we will store that data, or how we will analyze that?
If it was case that you decided to have child case, because it has a process, then the data might be stored in the case only. Okay, in the child cases it is there. You will fetch that based on the status. If the status of the child case is approved, then take that as a team for further processing. Okay, you might also decide to store it separately into another table. That's also fine. You will have to maintain some sort of status there as well. Once approved, then only store them. Or you might just store those basically teams directly in the tournament as a page list. That is also a feasibility. I mean, there are different cross approval. It depends on how you are going to use that data later on.
So Mahesh, in this is example, right? If we creating registration as a child case itself, it will be used for any further communication with the teams, like if the team is up
scheduling, communication, a lot of other things, cricket match hosting. These teams will be required, right? Yes. That's a different set of process. Let's not go into that detail. Right now, you understood, right? This is also a design pattern. This is an option that we can apply based on our requirement. Okay. Clear to everyone? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Next design pattern is very similar. Limited availability and concurrency. Same example, same situation. Let's just put one additional condition that we can enroll up to 10 teams. How will you design that? What changes will you make? Everything is same. We just said up to 10. No more than 10 teams.
So the registration link will be stopped, like made as inactive after we receive 10 eligible nominations.
How will you ensure that okay, so let's say that you had 9 approval already. For the 10th approval, there are 5 requests. How will you ensure that you only get 1? That's the concurrency problem. Okay, it depends on several things. You will have to just design in a way that okay, you can continue to accept all the registration. As soon as 10 teams are approved, you will auto cancel everyone else, right? That's one way. I mean, depending upon the scenario. So you will have to handle the concurrency there. Concurrency management is very critical because the capacity is limited. You have also an option to create 10 cases upfront here, right? And let them use it. But this is still a waste of resource. If only 5 teams are registering, 5 cases will be waste. So we should not be doing that. But that is also an option. You can create 10 cases and this will handle the concurrency and let the people enroll in one of those 10 cases. Other way is that, okay, you let them people create on-demand cases, queue them for the approval. And of course, as soon as we got the first 10 approval, and we will show that message when they submit their approval as well, or their application that, okay, we are taking your application, but we only have 10 cases, 10 slot available. So if we get, and this is based on the first come first serve. So if we get first 10 cases approved, your application will be auto rejected if we get the number of registrations with prior to your processing. Okay, I mean you can design that as well. Okay, that is also an option. That is called limited availability and concurrency problem. Exactly same thing. You just ask, I mean, keep storing them as a data, as a case, whatever. You run the validation. In our case, that is approval process. And if this is all okay, then you update the final case. That's okay. These many cases we have. Okay. Your request might be coming in parallel. So you need to serialize them, process them one by one, because you have limited availability. There are different ways of processing one by one. You might take all the requests as a data instance. You might initiate a case type immediately, whatever you do, based on, of course, further details. This much information is not enough to determine everything. There are other set of information which is needed as well. But here we are trying to understand the options that we have. Okay. So you are taking one by one. The first case is approved. Yes, pick the next one. That is done. Pick the next one until you have all the slots filled. If all the slots are filled, then that's where we will close. We will have to auto discard or basically reject the other remaining cases or data instances. Any question? Okay, then there is a last design pattern, which is also very rare. A lot of people do not know about that, but you can update a case from another case. If there is a requirement that there are certain data that has to be based on certain condition, you need to update from one case, other case. You can do that. It's very easy if there is parent-child relation. But even if there isn't any parent-child relation, you can still update other case using update case option. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah. When propagation, the way we do propagation, data propagation.
So you can update the cases in the top level. You can update the cases in. You can update the child case from the parent case or parent case from the child case using those options. Remember, it's not about the initial data propagation. That's a different thing. Here, based on certain logic, we need to update something in the parent case or in the child case. You need to get the PZ key of the case that you want to update. And that's very easy. If it is a parent case, the parent case has a property called PX covered, right? PX covered INSKey or case key, something like that. So a property, a value list property is there. That has actually PZ key of every child case. If it is a child case, PY work cover has the parent case information. If you need to update another child case from one child case, you will have to just go to the PY work cover, see the child cases, find the right child case that you want to update, and use the PZ key of that child case to update the other one. Then there is one last thing.
Question on this. On the top level cases, how do we update? I'm just two other top level cases.
You need to get the there has to be some business logic to identify the case that you need to update. Okay. Maybe based on some data. So you need to get that case ID or PZ key of that case by using that business ID. So for example, let's say that there are two parent cases. Okay. One is basically you are applying for a credit card and a bank account, both. Okay. Let's say that our business policy says that if the bank account is approved, then basically if we have any active application for the credit card, that's auto approved. Okay. Let's say that this is a policy. So how will you search the case ID of that credit card application? You have the customer ID, customer detail. You will probably query in the table or in the class from the credit card to identify that, okay, this is probably the customer's credit card application, right? And you will just update that.
Okay.
So you will have to write the business logic for that if it is not obvious.
So Mahesh, we will be encountering locking issues, maybe if we are updating a child from another child.
Yes, you will have to handle that as well in your design. The case design also need to consider locking, security, reporting, everything.
Okay.
Yeah. We will talk about that topic as well during the case identification. No, not case identification. There are concerns, I think, in this only. Okay, we'll talk about that's a topic. Okay. There's one more option in certain situation. you will never need to create a case. You can just handle everything using just creating them as a data instance. Okay. There are certain such requirement where you never need a case. You can just have them captured as a data and continue to work on that. Okay. These are the scenario you will often encounter. I mean, there's one scenario in our LSA curriculum itself on this training that we will discuss about. But let's say that there are some modular requests. Okay, for example, okay, in that cricket tournament itself, let's say the district, I mean, not related to the.
Sorry to interrupt you. So, why are we, insisting so much that, we should create cases, whenever it's required only, and in other cases we can go for
very high cost.
Or is the okay? It's a costing license cost is what?
Not just
right?
the license. Okay. License cost is one of the primary things.
I mean,
but not just
right.
the license.
Per case they charge something. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Cases should be only created when they need, and it's not just the license cost. When you create a case, maybe you are capturing data. Maybe you are capturing the data 100 fields or 200 fields. But there are 100 or 200 fields that Pega creates automatically for the case processing, right?
Yeah.
They also occupy space in your database on your server when they are being processed. That's also a cost, right? So we try to minimize the case. Case basically is always additional cost.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's say that the district administrator also want to accept judge registration. Okay, not judge. Sorry, they want to have umpires. For umpire, they do not have any basically any manual review. The requirement is that the umpire should be registered with some. Let's say in India, BCCI. Anyone who is registered with BCCI, they are basically they are automatic. They can register themselves as a judge, as an umpire. The process is that there will be a form. The umpire has to provide their detail, and there will be, let's say, there is a unique ID. Based on that, we can see whether this person is qualified judge from the BCCI or not. They submit that. Our system will have a automatic integration with the BCCI system, and it will determine whether the judge is, sorry, I keep on saying judge, that's a scenario actually, whether the umpire has a valid basically certificate and has met all the criteria or not. If it has met that, we will just store them as an umpire and we will use them in the matches. In this case, do you think that you need a case type?
But at least in order to register, we need to have at least one case, any one stage or something.
Why?
I think we can just provide some kind of form, some kind of web form or display harness, so where they can fill the details and that can store into some kind of data table. So based on that, your integration right now, let's say your registration form, you can have some kind of scheduler where internally you can just configure an integration where this each ID checks for the BCCI integration and just update some kind of approved or something in this table. So that will do the need.
This is the, see, you do not necessarily need a case if you do not need some sort of routing to different stakeholder. Okay, if one step process without any routing, you do not need a case. All right, so all you could do, okay, you can build a harness UI page, let the user enter the detail. On the click of submit, you can write a backend activity that will connect to the external system, get the data, run the validation logic. If it is, if the validation passes, it will persist the data. Otherwise, it might persist the rejected one as well with the status rejected and with the reason. Or you might decide to not persist rejected data, simply ignore that. Based on the business requirement, of course. So there are situations where people go ahead and create a case, but they do not really need a case. So you should be aware of those options as well. All right. Any question? No? Okay, so this is the design pattern, case design pattern. And now you know why I needed to cover this story before we go into the design. So yes, I will precisely cover that much which is needed for our design, okay? And then we will kickstart the design process. We will come back to basically theory part again once our build is in progress. Okay, next thing is case identification. Okay. All right. So case identification process. This is one of the core responsibility of LSA, right? We need to identify the cases from a given requirement. And of course, there are step-by-step process for the case identification. That's what we are going to learn about. Okay. First of all, the basic requirement of a case is that it needs to have a life cycle. Life cycle means it involves moving from one state to another state, interacting from basically various more than one stakeholder involved in getting that completed. It needs to produce an outcome. I mean, exactly what we discussed for the macro journey, okay? We should also understand one core concept about Pega, that is separation of concern. That's why we have different type of classes in Pega. So Pega says that the business process should be separated from the business data so that they can reuse. There can be reuse. I mean, the data can be reused in different business processes. And that's why we have work-classes and data-classes, okay? So your process should facilitate the processing of data, but should not actually consume or should not incorporate or hide the data. I mean, you should not have all the data the data definition, object definition within the work classes. No, we should have them in the data classes. During the case processing, we can leverage those data using different ways. We have data pages, we have class context switching. I mean, we can leverage those data classes and data in the work processing. Before you create cases, you need to basically understand how those things are data and the work is related. Okay, of course, the base is that any business process that has life cycle probably is a candidate for a case. And that's where I'm going to basically start or give you another example. And I want all of you to tell me what is the best solution for that, okay? Before we...
Mahesh, just one thing, like there is a lot of background noises coming, like...
Oh,
is it? Yeah.
Is it
not sure it's just me or it is for everyone? I'm not sure, but
one
something
second.
is
not for me.
Not
Sorry?
for me.
Not for you, right? No, so that's why that's what I'm thinking. Actually, it's I'm sitting in a quiet place.
okay. Maybe there might be a
Try to
chance it is
rejoin.
something to do with my phone. Yeah.
Yeah, you can try to rejoin. Okay. All right. Yeah. So the situation is that, I mean, all of us are doing shopping from this e-commerce site, right? Amazon, Flipkart, there's several other sites as well. If you will have to design, you all know the business process, apply the common business processes that you see when you order something from the Amazon or from the Flipkart or from any other website. How does it work? You select certain items, right? You put them in the cart. You start the checkout process, you pay, and then when you pay, basically, then your order is confirmed and then your order gets delivered to you. If you will have to automate this process in using Pega, if you have to build that website in Pega, how many cases do you see here and how will you configure them? Like I said, guys, at the beginning of this training is going to make you an LSA, irrespective of your certification. Of course, certification is the primary focus, right? But in that process, we will learn how to think as an LSA, and there's going to be a lot of such scenarios every single day. So that will enhance your knowledge. That's why I said, if someone has actually followed and someone is going to follow this training program with sincerity and dedication, they will not fail. So what do you think? If you will have to build that process, or basically that website that is there in the Amazon where anyone can select the items, pay, and then ordering something. So how will you manage that?
So Mahesh, I'm going to create two case types. One is for the overall order and other one is for each product delivery.
Okay. So you will
once the user selects like 2 or 3 more products, right? So I'm going to create individual child cases for each items because they might be delivered on a different timeline. So order will be taking care of for the overall case processing, like from the selection to until payment, and each child case delivery will happen on its own.
So Mahesh, I think there will be two things. One is the intake process and one is the fulfillment process. So we can create one journey for the intake process where a customer can able to choose the product and request the product. And the second one will be fulfillment where we are actually delivering the product to the customer.
So how many, if customer has selected 5 items, how many fulfillment, that fulfillment will be a case type, right?
We do not have to create the 5 different cases for 5 different products. The first intake channel will be a one case, and within one case, we can create the child case for the fulfillment to track the delivery of that case.
So for 5 items,
he had this point, no? So because practically in Amazon, we don't get the entire delivery in one go. So when I have made an order, I might have, if I place 10 items, I might receive 4 items today, 3 items tomorrow. So it all depends on the fulfillment of that specific order. So if they are on the same day delivery, they might come as same package. Sometimes we even get on the same day 3 different packages. It depends on the vendor who's fulfilling that specific order. So in my opinion, every product will have the fulfillment case and its own cycle also.
Yes, I will also go for one parent case and each item wise or order wise child cases. So once one product will be delivered, then child case will be closed and we will send the notification mail sender. Once all the 5 is delivered, then parent case will be resolved. So in future, if they want any information, we can provide with the parent case full details or each order wise details also. That will be, I will also go for that. One parent case and each item by child cases.
Okay, anyone else?
I will have the payment transaction would be a child case. Like I'll keep that as a child case for the payment. And order as the parent case, and each item, I won't split each item into child cases. Like I'll keep it as single child case only. Probably the fulfillment
why will we make payment as a separate case? We are not having multiple payments, no?
Yes, yes. In parent case itself, yeah. We can make it payment only one time in parent case. Once it will be payment done, then we will create order wise child case, and then delivery and parallel processing can work. That can be.
Payment will be a stage in the entire case life cycle of the order.
Yes, yeah. But would be a integration with the third party system, right? So that could be part of the parent itself.
And that will be one of the process, right? In the stage, there are multiple processes. So in that integration, approval, confirmation, then passing on the order to be into the next stage of fulfillment.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
Another point of view which I am thinking is like, let's have only my perspective is like, because the child technically doesn't have any life cycle there. So because you're already covering whatever you are planning to take in the parent case. Now, let's say you created a parent case which has an entire life cycle from ordering the payment, and this can be an individual assignments because they can only be, they are already technically placed when you do the parent case selection only. So all they have is just to the delivery. So once it is delivered, right, all these assignments can be closed in a parallel processing, and the parent case can also be resolved.
Yeah, what do you think that internally happens before the delivery?
So I think if we look at the system, I don't know, I don't remember now if Amazon has that, display of every stage. But you look at the Swiggy or any online order we do pizza, every stage, your driver has reached, your food is packaged, driver has left, the driver is 10 minutes away. So these are different notification to the customer for every different stage. So fulfillment, in my opinion, if we look at it that way, then it can have these stages as well. So fulfillment can also be like a case.
Right. I mean, different items may arrive even today, right? I mean, so like different item may arrive at different times. So, I mean, it essentially maybe not for each item we might have a case, but whatever we are deliver on a maybe a certain day or something, it can be grouped and create a new case, and it has its own life cycle.
I think advantage of creating each individual items as a case is that we can communicate and also we can track differently. In case if there is a product returning, right? So that can also be taken. So if we have only one case for all child cases, then product return won't be a choice for the user.
What did you gather from this requirement? If you will have to make a concept out of it, forget about this example. If you will have to explain when should we create a child case, what did you gather in this discussion? This was a very good discussion. A lot of people basically participated and they told you a different aspect. So what is the outcome of the discussion?
I believe whenever and something has its own life cycle, I believe then we should create a case like.
Yeah. So whenever there is a line item specific processing, when there is a processing related to the individual sub business process, in our case line item, then you will need a case, right? Child case. That item that you are selecting is going to basically assign to a vendor. The vendor has to ship it, right, and update the shipment detail, isn't it? Then it will be based on the courier service. It will be basically tracked to your home location. It will be delivered, and you might cancel it. You might return it, or you might just accept it. Okay. Is there any enhancement that you see if you are ordering 5 items? If you're creating a case or process, sub process might be also okay, not necessarily case type. That's not my idea anyway. I'm not saying it necessarily need a case type. It actually need a line item specific processing, isn't it? That can be handled through sub process as well.
routing here is important, right, Mahesh, to consider whether the case need to be there or not, along with the life
Yeah, I mean,
cycle.
we need, see,
Yeah.
if you look at that, we need basically the vendor to update the tracking ID. For that, we need to route the case or route an assignment to them, right? You know, in the case routing, case is never routed. Case remains in the work table. It's a different assignment that we create and assign to the users, isn't it?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Yeah. So in parallel processing, within the case, we have sub cases, sub processes. So I can create more than one assignment on a case at a given point of time. That's possible, isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes, it is possible. Yes, that is correct.
I can create a process there, and I can just create create one instance of that process or one assignment for every line item, and assign those to individual vendor. Split for each is for that purpose. Is we use split for each. Same set of process has to be there, right? They will have to just open the case, update, open the assignment, update the tracking ID, and submit it. Their job is done. But can I, or can we basically enhance it a little bit more? Do I really need to create multiple sub cases or sub processes for every line item, or can I enhance it a little bit?
Based on the requirements of some processes can be a background processes to using the standalone processing. Not necessary everything need to be a sub case.
Not, yes, exactly. We can do that using sub process. The enhancement I was talking to, instead of creating a case, a child case or a child process, I mean sub process or sub case, whatever you go with, you can, instead of creating that for every line item, you can create it for every unique vendor.
Yeah. For every unique vendor. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that could be an enhancement. There is one example here. I'll basically share these documents with you guys also, so you can basically, this is a little related, but the similar, okay?
Unique vendor means, can you explain what is the meaning of that?
So there are five items. Those, you know that Amazon does not basically own those items itself, right? It has vendors who supply them.
Yeah, they are sending from the vendor. So for
Correct.
example, one vendor having 3 items, one and vendor having 2 items, so you will create two cases,
yeah,
two years.
exactly.
But the problem what it cannot be, I was thinking, out of 3 items, for example, 1 or 2 item I want to return it, then how you will handle that scenario?
If we are creating a case, return means multiple process, probably a sub case is better in that case. You just choose the item in that case during the return, which items you want to return.
Okay, so yeah, that way we can do that.
Right?
Yes.
Good. All right. So there are certain guidelines based on this discussion. I wanted to have this discussion now. It would have opened up basically your thought process around different aspects that matters in the case design. Correct? So with that keeping in mind, let's see. So you need to just have a look at and ask a few questions to yourself when you are identifying or trying to identify the case types in a given scenario, okay? Does the case type represent the item that requires processing, or does it involve multiple actors to complete the process? This is the life cycle question, okay? Do we need to have multiple actors involved in order to complete the entire order process? Do we have line items that need separate or basically their own set of processing? That is the first question. If you need to have the line item specific process, you need to introduce some sort of either sub process, parallelism, or sub case processing, right? Either sub case or sub process. It depends on further information which one to go with. But if there is a line item specific processing, that is must, that there has to be some sort of either sub processing or sub case processing. Then there is there a benefit in splitting the process into multiple case type or child case type, or parallel processing is sufficient? Should if I build it into multiple case type, child cases basically, is that going to benefit me somehow? Is there any such security or reporting requirement? Otherwise, if I'm keeping them in the same case, was this having a locking problem? That will be solved if I break them into multiple. You will have to look at the complete picture. And if you find there is a benefit of splitting the case into multiple cases, then you should do it. Otherwise, not.
You're breaking up, Ganesh. Was it only for me or did everybody hear him fully?
Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It seems like there might be a little bit connectivity issue at your end. Okay. All right. Next thing is
Mahesh.
Yeah.
See, if we break them into multiple child cases, Pega creates proprietary properties for each child case, right?
Correct.
Then better if we could accomplish them using sub-processes wherein those data length may not be an issue for us, right?
It's situational. See, we always prefer sub-processing, but certain time business requirement is as such that you cannot compromise with the limitation that the same case processing has. Okay, the sub-process thing is called same case processing. Okay, so for example, if you are creating 5 sub-processes, okay, that means 5 different assignment to 5 users, correct?
Correct.
What's the limitation? If you have same case and 5 assignment, if all those 5 try to access the case at one time, if you have implemented default locking, one is working, other 4 has to wait. That's a limitation, right?
So we need to look into 360-degree.
Yes, absolutely. Always. Okay, so if we can, if our business is okay, our nature of the processing is as such that okay, it's okay for them to wait until the case is available, then this is good. But a business says no, that limitation cannot be there because those guys have to complete a lot of work. We cannot have them to wait for other people. Then this is not an option. Got it?
Mesh, one more time, because for me, you had broken, the communication was broken up. What is not an option? Just rephrase that.
So if we always try to avoid creating multiple cases, okay? But in the eventuality when we need to create multiple assignment or multiple, I mean, we need to do some line specific processing. So we have an option to create child case or we have an option to create sub case, right? Sorry, sub process or parallelism. So if we are creating a sub process and there are 5 assignment, 5 people will try to access the case. They can try to access the case parallelly, but there will be locking problem. So if they are entering a lot of data, we cannot allow optimistic locking because once one person submits, the other person's data will be lost and it will be frustrating user experience to resubmit everything together. So you will have to stick with the default locking, correct? Now, if it is okay, if the business is okay for others to wait when one user is accessing the case, in that case, this is the best option. But if business says that no, we cannot afford other users to wait for each other's when someone is working on the case because they need to do a lot of processing and they need to enter a lot of data. There is a lot of things involved. In that case, sub case processing is not an option. Understood? All right.
Mahesh,
Yes.
this is a very specific to business requirement, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What happens like in this scenario, right? If we get a question in build or design exam, right? Like, how do we decide? Because both are
There will
fine.
be information about this, okay? There will be information about this in the scenario.
Okay, got it.
And just a supplement question, like, so can we ask like them if there are more further clarifications on the questions,
Yes,
right?
you can always write the
We-
CLSA@pega.com during your exam and they will respond to you promptly.
Okay.
I remember one thing, LSA is not a rule book based role. Okay? LSA is not a rule book based role. LSA is a role which sometimes decides to go against the rule when it is beneficial. And you should be able to justify that and you should be able to make that decision. So LSA is about understanding how does it work, how that Pega processing works, and how better we can handle. Sometime, in fact, breaking the rule as well. If it was set of rules, everyone can play that role, isn't it? If you have a set of user manual, you just need to have the basic understanding of basically having the ability to read and implement it. That's all you need. Everybody will be LSA, isn't it? It's always situational. It's always 360. It's always about this option versus that option and which one is beneficial for us. There's always a more than one way of doing something. Got it? All right. Second one is if child case, next point is, next question to ask to yourself is, if child case type exists, does the processing of main case type depends on the application, on the completion of the child case type? Does that hold true? If yes, then probably, then only child case usage is valid. What does what actually is this statement saying? This is saying that this situation, this condition of completing the child case before the parent case is required, then it is then only the child case is valid scenario. If your parent case can complete even when the child case is still being worked upon, that's not a very good situation where you will create a child case. Probably you need to relook at your design and see where you went wrong. Are there other current or future requirements such as reporting and security that are more easily implemented by adjusting the case type design? You know, the default security implementation is Pega is RBAC, correct? Yes,
What is
no.
it, Mahesh? Sorry.
The default security implementation in Pega is RBAC.
Yeah.
And that is mandatory. You cannot do away with that. RBAC role-based access control, right? Where you create access group, access role, and AROs in the access role. AROs are defined on classes, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And every time you create a new case type or a child case, that is going to have a different class, isn't it?
Yeah.
So creating multiple child cases or creating child case gives you more feature in terms of implementing the security. But that's not the only way. Okay, it's not like that. If you need to handle something based on the line item, handle the security based on the line item, RBAC is the only option. No, there are other ways as well to handle the security. But of course, having multiple case classes is going to give you way more security implementation options than basically having all of those features in one case type. That means only one class. Reporting is made easier as well with multiple classes, but that goes negatively, that is negatively affected if you need to join multiple classes. So yes, having child cases help in some way, but you will have to evaluate that help. How much help is that giving versus how much cost it is going to introduce. Okay, and then take a conscious decision. And these are the things we are going to do during our design. Okay, when we discuss the scenario, in that we will discuss about those things.
Just a question on that line where it says like, if a are the current if the child case type exists and does the processing of the main case type depends on the completion of child case types. So I mean, you mentioned like if the parent case can be completed before the child case, then it's not correct, right? Like
probably certain situation might still be.
Yeah,
but
then
most,
yeah, but just to complete my question, then what would be the alternative? Because even sub-processor, it would be same situation, right? Main process might not complete.
You cannot complete the case type unless you complete all the child case, all the sub process, unless it is spun off.
Right, but same would be applicable for the sub processes as well, right? Like
So, I'm talking about the sub process only.
Okay.
You will have to complete all the sub process before you move the case to the completion. Okay, that's ideally.
Right.
See, we still have technical solutions to break that rule. Okay,
No,
I'm
no.
not saying that this is not possible at all, but logically that's true. So, for example, in the line item, if you say that your order is completed immediately after the payment and you are initiating the sub case, that's not a better design then. Okay, then probably you should have created basically different case type at the beginning itself. But that doesn't hold true. Our order does not complete unless every item is delivered and completed.
Okay, so basically the alternate of this would be that instead of those sub case type, they should be the main case types, right?
Not necessarily that's the only alternate. You'll have to look at the scenario then.
Okay.
Okay, based on that. It's just that during the design, you just probably overlooked at something and you created a child case. Just revisit that and evaluate that again. That's what it means.
Okay.
Okay. So if every process has separate security requirement, then it makes sense to consider creating separate case type and child case type. That's what I said, right? If they have very specific security requirement based on their basically processes, so probably creating a child process or sub process is not better option. Maybe creating child case is a better option because that will give you more control over the security. But you will have to evaluate that security requirement. Maybe those are easily implemented in the same case. Then why unnecessarily, I mean, based on just one factor, you will not create a case type unless there is no other way to fulfill that. So look at that requirement and see if there is other way. If granular reporting is associated with the process, then it makes sense to consider creating separate case type. Again, the reporting often basically often forces us to redesign our application. And believe me, even if you look at your project, if your data is not properly designed, there's a high chance of your application getting failed, or if not failing, for sure it's not going to be very much extensible and extendable. And some of you must have basically felt that, isn't it? Anyway, so yeah, look at those reporting requirement, those security requirement to determine what is best there. Also, the infrastructure provided by case processing for data such as approval, security, auditing, it is advantageous. Wherever there is audit requirement, there is approval requirement, there is other security import. These things are automatically available to the work extended classes. In that case, creating a case is very advantageous. So see that if you need something like that, if you need some sort of basically auditing, some sort of approval, then of course you probably will have to stick with creating separate cases. All right, just a minute. Okay, guys, I just need 1 minute. Okay, I'm sorry. Someone is knocking on my door. I'll have to just address that. So give me 1 minute, okay? And we'll resume. All right, sorry about that interruption. We'll continue now. Okay, so I mean the example that we had above, the same example is now evaluated on that. Look at your requirement because we had our own version. So after looking at these points, I'm going to ask you guys again to tell me what is the best solution considering all these things, and just be practical about it. That order case one. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Repeat the question again, Mahesh.
So the earlier situation that we discussed, the Amazon order one, you all proposed a solution, we discussed them. And now since we have read these questions that we should ask and accordingly take a decision, after having gone through these questions, if I ask you to revisit and tell me what is the best solution for the order one, what do you think?
So it all depends on the business, the type of business. Suppose there are some products, they do the shipment. There are some products, they don't have vendors. So we need to have category. So depending on that, we can have these sub cases created.
Okay. Anyone else would like to jump on that or basically say something?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, I think we should go with the cases and sub cases, child case, parent case, and child case, because the reporting, security, many things are there. So it will be helpful going forward and expanding the business to other countries. So in that sense, going through parent case, child case would be a good option.
Yeah, decision should be keeping in mind locking, reporting, security, and all of the stuff. Correct. And keeping all these things in mind, decision should be made.
Yeah, good. Now, yes, your answers, basically all of your answers are correct. Now you're considering it in multi-purpose. See, we do not have the locking and reporting and security requirements defined here, right? So we cannot really make a decision right away. You can say your inclination towards this or that, both are correct. But this point that, okay, I need to look at other requirements related to the security, reporting are critical. That's the right way of approaching it. Okay. There are two examples here. Okay. One I'm going to show you right here, and you all take a few minutes to read it, and then tell me what is the best solution for that. Okay. Can you guys read it? Is it readable, guys?
Yes.
Okay. So take 4-5 minutes to read it and then come up with a solution. The solution is there in the document, but I want you guys to try that out first. I'll say this. Once you have completely understood this, let me know. I'll scroll. There are a few lines at the bottom as well, which are not visible.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes. So we're just looking at the question. Once you guys have read it and made a basically mind how we can implement it, let me know.
Mahesh, can I give it a try?
Yes, go ahead.
So in my design, right, I'll have two cases, one for reporting an injury and one for submissions. So like since an injury is a country-based data entry, right? So maybe right, some of the sections may be circumstanced. Okay, and if that is not much details to be entered, then we can use visible when conditions to take the data entry. And like once the injury is created, we can have a business logic where if the death of the person is happened on that injury, and then we can create a submissions case for a regulatory body that they can also report on that. And in the summary, right, each year, end of each year, we have a summary case created by the job scheduler to report on number of cases recorded on that year.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? I'm not going to comment basically if it is right or wrong. We have a solution, but let's hear out. Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I also think the same, like there should be two case types, one for submissions, one for incidents, because submissions like requirements are a bit different and may vary, right? Like country to country, like security and other things, right? So, and can be different. However, it can like use the incident information, that is fine. I believe other case type can use the information of the case type. But these are the two case types we should create, like at least.
I will have only the submission as the case type, and record injury illness could be like capturing data as a form or like storytelling.
Process. What about this process? Annual summary.
That is. Yeah, annual summary could be a separate case type based on the submission, right?
I think I'm going to go with the first proposal where incident is one case, and then, based on that condition, create a sub case, because at the end of the day, they are related.
Okay. But okay, this is good. I mean, there are different way and version of that, but I still have basically question on annual summary. Anyone want to talk about that? What exactly is happening in the annual summary? Can you summarize the requirement, one of you?
Annual summary is a report that we generate through like how many injuries are reported throughout the year, right?
And then that report is directly published or something else is happening there?
Be verified, certified by the regulatory for the.
What? Yes. So what does that mean? That's what I was actually pointing out.
Processes and multiple actors to be acted on the case.
Correct. All right. So yeah.
Annual, yeah. So annual summary is a child case. It must be a child case.
I mean, child case or case, that's okay. Not necessarily a child case. It's annual summary. Not related to any case. It definitely is not a child case. Okay. Why do you think it's running running once in a year? It might be
The summary is the reporting aspect, no? It can be part
reporting.
of the.
It is reporting aspect, but what about the other things after the report is generated? because it's not going to be published right away, right? That report has to be validated, verified, and then only.
बस यही राइट पे कहीं और कर दो
वही बहुत करते हैं
Okay.
Is this a reporting directly? We need to create a report definition and we will send it, or for that also we need to
No,
create
you need a case actually.
cycle.
You'll
We
need a
to-
case. You need a case for that, okay?
Okay. To track
Yeah.
be certified
Yes.
or 3 step, verify you're
Yes.
certified, and then only
Yeah.
we will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then somebody can be a totally separate case.
Correctly. That's a separate case altogether, okay?
Yes, altogether separate case.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So content wise, this is where we will stop right today. I'm going to basically stop the recording, and I wanted to discuss one thing about one thing with you guys.